Our devotion comes from Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 24. And I would like to introduce this by taking you back to my very first week as a freshman in undergraduate college. I'm in a PE, a physical education course in the college gymnasium, and I'm talking to Mike, a freshman from Florida. And I do not know what possessed me to ask him this question. Mike, when you graduate from college, what are you going to do? And he said, I've got that all figured out. When I get my bachelor's degree, I'm going to graduate school to get a master's degree. And I figured that'll take me 2 or 3 years. After getting my master's degree, I'm going to postgraduate school and get a doctor's degree. I figured that'll take 3 or 4 years. Now, I didn't tell Mike, but I thought, oh, he is so academically ambitious. Boy, I would never seek out that much education. Mike flunked his freshman year of college, returned to Florida, and I never heard from him again. And I do not know if Mike ever graduated from college. But after I graduated from college, I had papers and pencils and books coming out of my ears. I was so weary of the classroom and studying. When I graduated, I said, that's it. I don't want to ever return to the classroom for any more education. To my surprise, 3 years later, I found myself headed to Dallas, Texas. I had just signed up for a 4-year master's program. After those 4 years, and I got my master's degree, I said, that's it. And this time I mean it. I will never again return to the classroom and seek any more education. No more schooling. To my surprise, 2 years later, I found myself on an airplane headed toward England. I had just signed up for a 4-year PhD program. Now, I want to take you back to my junior year as a college undergraduate. I'm in another PE, physical education class, being held in the same college gymnasium, and now I'm talking to a different student, Pete. He's a senior. And I said, Pete, this is your last year of college. When you graduate, what are you going to do? And he said, I've just signed up for admission to Officers Candidate School in the U.S. Marine Corps, and I'm waiting out to find out if they're going to accept me. Now, I didn't tell Pete this, but I thought, oh, brother, I have heard how hard the Marine Corps is. He'll probably get sent to the war in Vietnam and killed. I would never do anything stupid like joining the Marine Corps. Pete flunked his physical exam. No branch of the military would take him. And when I graduated from college, I found myself, to my surprise, on a bus going through the main gate of the Marine Corps base at Quantico, Virginia, where I had just signed up for Officers Candidate School. And after a year of military training, I found myself on the plane headed toward the war in Vietnam. Now, I wonder how many of you have had a similar experience. You said, I am going to do such and such, but to this hour, you have never gotten around to doing what you had your heart set on, or vice versa. You said, I am never going to go and do that. To your surprise, later, you went and did the very thing that you were determined you never would do. Some years ago, I had a young lady in class at Moody, and she said that in her senior year, she began to look at various colleges and universities to decide which one she wanted to go to, and she had several really good options. And she said, the only college that I said I would never go to was Moody Bible Institute. And she said, yet, here I am in my 3rd year at Moody Bible Institute. Now, probably some of you listening have had experiences like that. You're going to do this, never got around to it. You're not going to do that, later you went and did it. Why do things like that happen? They happen because of the truth found in Proverbs 20 and 24. Now, this verse has to do with the sovereignty of God. What is that? God is in complete control, not only of the stars and the planets in the universe and of the nations on the earth, but also of my life and all its circumstances. Now, if you're not certain that that is true, may I ask you a quick series of questions? Why did you decide to live? Nobody consulted your wishes on that. So who did it? Who did decide that you would live? Was it dad and mom? Not really, although they have a minor part to play in your existence. The Old Testament is quite clear on this. It's God who opens or closes the womb. We all know that there are couples that try to have children. They can't biologically. On the other hand, there are couples that try not to have children and they have them anyway. And what are children called who are unplanned by their parents? They're called accidents, mistakes. And I don't doubt that some of you listening are mistakes. That is to say, you weren't planned by dad and mom, but you were planned by heaven. Now, our first two children showed up pretty much when Sue and I thought they would, but not number three. We tried to prevent his conception. God overruled, and he was conceived. And when I learned that our third child was on the way, I was just so grateful that God had overruled our attempts to prevent his conception that I picked out a special name for him. I want to call him Culpa Felix. And this is two Latin words. Felix is an adjective, which means happy, and culpa is a noun that means mistake. I want to call him Culpa Felix. And I told my wife, I said, Sue, I'm so pleased that number three is on the way. I've got a unique name for him. I'd like for us to name him Culpa Felix. And she said, I like the sound of that. What does it mean? And I said, never mind what it means. Let's just enjoy the sound of it. And she got suspicious. Look, she said, if we're going to put this name on our child, I want to know what it means. And I said, well, Culpa Felix is Latin for happy accident. Whoa. When she heard the word accident, she got upset and said, we are not going to call our child an accident. I said, but it's a happy one. She said, I don't care. And I said, so would you feel better knowing that this Latin noun, culpa, instead of being translated accident, could be translated mistake? No, she said, that makes me feel even worse. And so I had to settle for naming our third child Jeffrey. Now, there are not a few people who do not believe the veracity of what I'm going to say to you. But I want to assure you, every word of what you're going to hear me say is 100% truth. My last name is Sauer, which is German for S-O-U-R. And when our first child was born, our daughter, I felt so sorry for her. When I was a kid, the other children in the neighborhood made fun of my last name, Sauer. And I was called Sour Apple, Sour Grape, Sour Puss. I was even called Dill Pickle. So I knew what this sweet little girl was in for. She was going to be her. People would make fun of her name as well. We gave our daughter the middle name Naomi. So her full name would be some first name in Sauer. Now, I felt real bad about the last name Sauer. I wanted to balance out that last name Sauer. What one word from the English vocabulary would you draw on to balance out the word sour? Here was my choice. I wanted to name her Sweet and Sour. And when I told my wife, not only did Sue get upset with me, her mother got upset with me. And they said, you are not going to stick this name on that little girl. And I said, I thought I wore the pants in the family. And they said, you do as long as you wear them correctly. And right now, you're not wearing them correctly. And so I had to settle for the name Naomi Sauer. Now, had it been up to me, this name would have appeared on her birth certificate. Now, let me ask you some more questions. Number two, who chose your time in history to live? Why didn't you live back in the 15th century? Why didn't you wait to live in the 26th century? Who chose your gender? Who determined your looks, your level of intelligence, what race you would belong to? Who decided your place of origin, where you would come from? Who chose that? One man whose sperm you came from. Who selected that? One woman whose womb you emerged from. Your parents. If there's one emotional question students have asked me down through the years, it's this. Dr. Sauer, explain to me why God gave me such a terrible father. Dr. Sauer, tell me why God gave me a mother who is totally out of control. Jesus said to his 12 disciples, did I not myself choose you? And yet one of you is a devil, talking about Judas Iscariot. Christ did not make a bad decision by choosing a bad disciple. He had very good reasons for choosing a bad disciple. And if God has given you a bad parent or two bad parents, he made no mistake. How many mistakes has God made in his eternal existence? He's yet to make one. And God knew what kind of parents you were going to have. And if he had it do over again, he would give you the same parent. And it may be, if you have two bad parents, it may be the only reason God gave you those two parents is you would need their good DNA to enable you to live a long, strong, healthy, robust life. Now, the point of all of this is someone has made very important decisions about you and your entire life. That person is neither you, is neither your dad or mom, nor is that person yourself. Rather, your Creator in infinite wisdom and love has made those decisions. And that's what Psalm 31:15 says. My times are in your hands. It comes from the New International Version. With the word times, he means two things. The number of days you've allotted to me, you've decided that. Before I ever lived the first day, you allotted me so many days upon the earth. And you also determined the major events that would occur during those days. Now, here's the translation of the same clause from the Christian Standard Bible. The course of my life is in your power. Course, same thing. The days you're allotted to me and the major events that are going to take place are in your hand. All right, so let's go now to our verse, Proverbs 20 and verse 24. And let's remember now that Hebrew reads from right to left. And I'm going to begin with the very first word, Me Yahweh, which means from the Lord. Notice how I'm going to translate from the Lord. However, I'm going to add in the word only. How do I justify doing that? This prepositional phrase, the first letter right here means from. It's a preposition. Here it is, from, and Yahweh means the Lord. Well, these words, May Yahweh, ought to be right here at the end of this clause, but for emphasis, they are made the first word. That's a figure of speech I've touched on before called hyperbaton. This is removing a word from its normal place in a sentence and putting it into an abnormal place to attract the reader's attention in order to emphasize some point. And what point is he emphasizing here? That your life, your steps, your life's course come from the Lord. They come only from the Lord. Your life's course doesn't come from your dad, your mom, your grandparents, you, or anybody else. Your entire life will come only from the Lord. Now let's move to the next word, nishadeh. Only from the Lord come the steps of a mighty man. Now we have another figure of speech here in steps. He's not talking about literal steps. This is a figure of speech called hypocatastasis. What is that? Here's a simple definition. One thing, steps, is not said to be, but only implied to be another thing. So steps stand for your circumstances that you're going to find yourself in during your life upon the earth. your decisions, the direction your life has, your position or positions you will be in, your plans, your endeavors, add all of that up, my life, my whole life's course, the direction my life takes. So what is this saying? Only from the Lord comes the life course of now notice this, a mighty man. And here is the word, mighty man, Geber. Now, Hebrew has 4 different words that are all translated by our same English word, man. The first one is Adam. This refers to man, a mortal human being. The Homo sapien is mortal. We're going to live 70, 80, 100 years upon the earth, and we all die. Number 2 is Ish. This means male. Male in contrast to female. Number 3 is Enosh, which means the human being, man, is a weak, fragile creature. And then number 4 is the word Gever, which means mighty, strong, brave. Gever is used in the Old Testament of courageous, strong soldiers on the battlefield. And that's the word that's used here. Only from the Lord come the steps of a mighty man. And what a surprising statement. You and I look at this Gever, this mighty man, and maybe he is powerful physically, rippling muscles like Hercules. Maybe he is mighty economically, socially, politically, occupationally. In some way or in some ways, he is a strong person. And it appears that such a strong man is in absolute control of his life. Do you remember that well-known poem, Invictus, written, I think, by William Hanley? And he ends by saying, I am the captain of my fate. I am the master of my destiny. Meaning what? Nobody else, nothing else. I am in complete control of my life. You know what Proverbs 20:24 is saying? Nothing could be farther from the truth than that remark. Now let's go to the second line. In the second line, I'm going to begin with the very first letter, the Adam. The is a conjunction, and here it is an inferential conjunction. Looking back to the fact in 24a, first clause, that a person's life's course is determined by God, therefore draws a conclusion that is stated in a rhetorical question. All right? So, mortal man. Now, notice here the writer is going to drop Gever, the life course of a mighty man. Now, after what the first clause says, that mighty man is not as strong as we thought he was, the writer's going to drop Gever, he's going to drop mighty man, and he's going to pick up that second, another word used of man, and that is Adam. He is a mortal creature. He's got enough strength to live 70, 80, 100 years, then he's just going to fizzle out and pass away. Mortal man, therefore, now our text literally says this, how can he understand his way, his life's activities, the direction in which his life is headed? So 24b is a rhetorical question, literally, therefore, how can mortal man understand his direction, his undertakings, actions, decisions, course of life? Well, this is a figure of speech called eroticus of negation. The raising of a question, not to get an answer, but to strongly state a fact in a negative manner. The question is, how can a person understand his life's course? Answer, he can't do it. So notice now, notice how I'm going to translate this last clause. Mortal man, therefore, cannot understand the direction his life sometimes takes. Meaning what? Because we are not in control of our life. I decided to do this, never got around to it. I decided I'm not going to do that. I went and did what I swore up and down I would never do. because you and I are not in control of our life. He is. There will sometimes be twists and turns we did not see coming up, ups and downs. Things happen to us we didn't plan. We didn't want them to. We have no idea why these things included into our life, and things happen. Bad things happen. Why? Is there any good that can possibly come out of that? Mortal man, therefore, cannot understand the direction his life sometimes takes. But for you and I, who know this truth of God's sovereignty, and we fear God, we may not be able to always understand what God is doing with our life, but we can trust Him. Okay, so some practical applications I think that we can draw from this. I don't have sufficient wisdom to properly plan my future. I must soberly recognize this, so I prudently don't attempt to plan it by myself. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and not just in your own understanding. In all your endeavors and all your plans and all your undertakings, seek Him, and He will make clear your path. Secondly, I don't have sufficient authority to even implement my planned future. I don't need to possess that authority. God has the necessary strength for me. Thirdly, long ago, God gave you, lots of careful thought. Using His absolute wisdom and coming from His perfect love for me, in advance, He planned my entire life and yours as well. God knew us before eternity, in eternity past, before He ever created the world. And God didn't think this way. Okay, I know that John Doe is going to come into existence. Now, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't have any plans. I don't really have any use for him, but I'm going to create him, give him 70 years to live, and maybe he can think of something worthwhile to do with his life. That's not the case at all. Using His absolute wisdom, coming from His perfect love for me, God, in advance, God's planned my entire life. Heaven is now in process of unfolding, opening up, and implementing my life. He's planned my life, your life, and He's opening it up and beginning to skillfully implement our life and that plan. 5, my responsibility then is to trust Him, be submissive to His leading, and to responsibly be active in seeking His plan for my life and cooperating with it. Although God is sovereign over my life, He has also given me free will. I have considerable responsibility in making decisions and acting throughout life. Divine sovereignty allows me to make bad decisions and even to sin, but I will be held responsible for these, and there will be consequences. To minimize the sins and wrong decisions, I want to seek to know and cooperate with God's plan for my life. So does this saying? It is comforting, number 7, to know that my life is not in the head of some intoxicated driver I might happen to meet on the highway, and he crashes into me and kills me, or I'm maimed for life. Nor am I at the mercy of terrorists, nor am I the victim of a disease that seemingly arbitrarily strikes me. Rather, my life is in the hand of a sovereign, wise, and loving God who seeks only the best for me. So, Lord, I pray that You'd make this truth more and more evident to us, that our life is being led by a wise, loving, sovereign, powerful Heavenly Father who seeks the best for us. And I pray that we may trust You and the decisions that You have made and the guidance and the direction You send us in. Now, Lord, when things befall us that we didn't plan, we didn't see coming, some of which we don't like, again, may we confide in Your judgment of what You're doing and give us peace and joy and eager anticipation of what You have for us in the future. In Jesus' name, amen. May the Lord bless you.